I need to turn my camera back on first so I can do the intro. Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Canole. Welcome back to another episode of the Movie Battleground, and we are here today for a certain to be interesting exhibition. Anyone who has spoken to me on a personal level knows my opinion of the exhibitions, and it is that something somewhere needs to be changed and adjusted within them. And so I've been trying to experiment and try different things and see what should happen going forward with them. And today is the definition of let's experiment with the game. Because we have right now the highest ranked player in the league, that being the current champion, Henry Sanchez, with 8-1 with 2 knockouts, versus Jake Tato Riese, who is currently the last ranked player with 0 wins and 4 defeats. And the way that this is going to work tonight in an exhibition matchup is Jake has had the full allotted prep time that normal competitors get for their matches. So all these tournament matches that you guys are watching, Jake has had the same amount of prep time as those competitors. He had the questions. He is ready to go. Henry doesn't know what the fuck is going on tonight. He's just going to come on screen, be his Henry self, and debate against Jake. And he still feels just as confident, I imagine. So with that said, let's talk to the competitors for a moment before we get into this. Introducing first, returning to the battleground as a competitor, he is Jake Tato Riese. Jake, welcome back, sir. You are, anyone who's spoken to you personally knows that you're in a much better place than the last time we had you debate. So how are you feeling tonight?
I'm doing good, as you mentioned, feeling better than the last debate. Ready to be here. When Henry said this, I hopped on it. It's going to be a blast no matter what happens.
All right. Well, I'd ask you more questions, but you said I hopped on it and Henry giggled like a schoolgirl, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it to him and see what he has to say here. I'll put you in the back and introduce your opponent. He is the current Movie Battleground champion, set to defend that title against Amaru Moses at the end of the season. But first, he has Jake, Henry Sanchez. Henry, welcome back, sir. How are you feeling tonight?
Good. I mean, yeah, it's exhibitions. Exhibitions are fun. It's a matter of, what are the questions going to be? Give Tato a little prep, a little practice, maybe a little morale boost. If he gets this win, it could, kind of spark something. So best case scenario, I beat the shit out of him and embarrass him in the most prep he's ever had with me, no prep. Other best case scenario is he gets his first win and all of a sudden he goes on a title run because now he knows how to debate and he learns something. So win-win for everyone.
The day that Jake makes it to a title match is the day that I cry on camera. Tears of pure joy, man. Tears of pure joy. That is the comeback. I'm going to assume the Astros just did something. Alex backstage celebrating. We're going to go ahead and get into this, guys. So we do have 3 judges backstage. As I said, Alec Miller is here. Chris Diaz is here. Abel DeLu is here. They are going to be judging this matchup as we go ahead and jump into it. And with that said, they just got on a base. That means they connected, right? Baseball. With that said, we're going to go into – there we go. We're going to go to question number 1. And so here's the thing. Like I said, it is an exhibition. There are 3 questions at hand tonight. First to 2 points wins, although I'm assuming with these 2 guys, they're going to want to debate all 3 questions because, I don't know, they like abuse in Henry's case. And I guess Jake's case too. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So not only did Jake have time to prep these questions, but Jake also got to choose basically the categories of the 3 questions. I basically gave him 3 strengths. So these are all coming from whatever Jake decided to throw up there. The way that we're going to do this is I'm going to announce the question. We're going to bring the timer in. Jake is going to get his opening minute for each question first. And by the end of that opening minute, Henry should be ready to go to begin defending his answer. He can get a couple extra seconds if he needs it, but Henry's that guy. He'll step up to the challenge and make it ready. So with that said, Jake, Henry, any last words? Are we ready to go?
Good luck. Have fun.
Words.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. And the first question is coming from somebody who just had a film release earlier this year. As somebody who's honestly not the biggest fan of said person, actually a pretty solid film. Take away the nostalgia of it. I enjoyed the movie for what it was. So with that said, the question is breaking the normal strengths rule that we have, because anyone who's spoken to me knows that this is not a strength I allow because it's technically a subcategory of something that's already a strength, but it's an exhibition, so fuck it. The question is, what is the best film in the View Askew universe? Jake, I'm going to give you the timer, and when you are ready, sir, you can begin speaking.
Don't even need notes.
Yeah. Well, here I can break strength rules, so deal with that, Henry. the best film in the View Askew universe is Chasing Amy. This is the first movie where Kevin Smith actually says something with his story. It deals with very serious issues of relationships and sexuality, whilst also maintaining the View Askew brand of humor that we all know and love. You too, Aaron. Chasing Amy also has the finest overall acting in the franchise. We get a top-tier Ben Affleck performance. Jason Lee is all heart and hilarity. And the crown jewel of it all, Joey Lauren Adams, absolutely astonishes as Alyssa Jones. Not to mention the help they get from Dwight Ewell as Hooper X, and a short but spectacular appearance from Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith himself as Jay and Silent Bob. Chasing Amy is the best film in the View Askew universe.
All right, and that'll be time on Jake's opening minute. Henry, back over to you.
So when you think of Kevin Smith's filmography as a whole, specifically in the View Askew universe, you think of two different things. You think of a set style from his films, but you also think of a specific type of characters that he writes within these films and what makes these characters lovable. So I'm going with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot because this is a movie that has given time for Kevin Smith as a filmmaker to evolve and to grow and to learn and to adopt different, filmmaking aspects and learn different things. And it's giving his actors an opportunity to not only be these characters for years on end, but it's also have all of them have their careers to grow as actors. So it follows Jay and Silent Bob on a reboot, and it kind of spins off kind of how it has Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back with they're on a mission and they're going to learn some stuff because they're trying to get their identities back. So it already has that comedic, center through line of what the plot is going for. But at the end of the day, this movie has the most heart of any film within the View Askew universe in Kevin Smith's career, and honestly, of recent memory, because it is heartbreaking and heart fulfilling at the end of the day.
And time. All right, so we have Chasing Amy and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Somewhere in the View Askew universe, Jay Burns is still trying to argue for Red State somehow. With that said, Jake, we're going to go back.
Not available to watch.
Fucking Jay. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Alrighty. For those of you who don't know the movie, I'll just give a quick breakdown. It follows three characters. Holden and Banky are comic book artists. They get invited out one night. Holden hits it off with Alyssa, or so he thinks. As we shortly come to learn, the bar that they're out at is a gay bar, and Alyssa is a lesbian. Again, or so we think. They do develop a friendship, which eventually turns into a romantic relationship, which strains his relationship with Banky, and then the movie culminates in one of, if not the most emotional moment in the View Askew universe, which I won't spoil it here, but it ultimately ends in the dissolution of all their relationships. Chasing Amy is a groundbreaking film. Most romantic comedies today do not deal with the issues at hand as well as Chasing Amy did in 1997. There are still way too many movies just in general where LGBTQ characters are swishy stereotypes, and Chasing Amy does not do that. It handles, it treats people like people. Go figure. It's amazing. Also, Chasing Amy stands alone in the View Askew universe as a movie that would work on its own without the humor, whereas I don't think any other movie does. Reboot definitely doesn't. Furthermore, prepping for this match, I did find a bunch of reviews illustrating that even if this movie wasn't among their personal favorite View Askew Kevin Smith movies, that it was probably the View Askew universe or Kevin Smith's overall best work. Chasing Amy is so good that the best scene in Reboot, which is a love letter to the View Askew universe, is the scene where we get to find out what happened with Alyssa and Holden. And while other View Askew movies hit emotionally, the only one I cannot get through without shedding at least a couple tears is Chasing Amy, excepting the Chasing Amy scene from Reboot.
And time. All right, Henry, back over to you. 2 minutes.
So I wanna battle back two things that you said at that part. The best part of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is actually when Jay is able to finally acknowledge the fact that he's a father, and he's at, spoiler alert, obviously you guys haven't seen it, but he's able to finally acknowledge the fact that he's a father and grow as a human being, which not only kind of correlates Jay's arc as a character, but also Jason Mewes' arc in life after dealing with drug addiction and all this stuff is actually given him a chance to shine not only as an actor but also as a human being and grow. So later in the movie, when we actually do see that Holden in Alyssa scene, it is beautiful and it makes you shed a tear, not because specifically what Chase and Amy built up beforehand. Obviously, that's the foundation of it. But like I said earlier, with this movie is later in Kevin Smith's career, so it actually gave Kevin Smith the opportunity to grow as a filmmaker. So the way he was able to put together this scene and have these actors and the writing specifically in this that's the flawless part. It has, yes, obviously it was founded from Chasing Amy, but it was executed perfectly in this movie, which is why this movie is his best movie, because it encapsulates everything that you love from a Kevin Smith film. If you look at the reviews and all that stuff, would you say people might objectively, quote unquote, say Chasing Amy is the best film because they're not familiar or they're not as accepting of the crass humor that you're going to see amongst these films. And at the end of the day, when you go to a Kevin Smith film, outside of being a critic, where it's your job to go see everything, if you're going to see a Kevin Smith film, specifically The View Askew, you're going for that crass humor, which is very niche, granted, but that's the whole point of it. So yes, if you're going to look at reviews, they might say Chasing Amy is the best one. But if you're asking the vast majority of people, they're not going to be saying that. A lot of people are saying Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the original Clerks. But at the end of the day, what we have throughout his entire filmmaking filmography is that Jay and Silent Bob reboot encapsulates everything that Kevin Smith has grown as a character, and we're going to get into specifics once we get into the 4 minutes. But that's why this movie has the comedy, the weirdness, and as well as the emotions.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and go into the 4-minute open discussion. You guys know how this works, so I will start the timer up when the first competitor speaks.
I'll let you start.
Yeah, like you said, I enjoy Jay's arc too. It's fine. But it hits most in that Chasing Amy scene, where Jay eventually realizes, we came to get our names back, and it doesn't matter anymore because I have a new fucking name, and it's fucking Dad. That's in that Amy scene.
Yeah, but even leading up to that scene, you're growing as the arc. And even the initial time right before that, when he finds out that he's going to be a father, before they even take the trip to go to Chronicon, that's one of those things where Jason Mewes' Jay automatically is starting to turn on to father mode. He's not good at it, so he's not great at it, but immediately within the first 15, 20 minutes of the film, he's already starting that dad moment. So he's already getting there, and it's clicking. He's just growing as a father figure by the time we get to the point. So yes, granted, that is the icing on the cake, but that is not the overall point of the movie. That is not the selling point. That is just the icing on the cake. The buildup beforehand is what makes this film more beautifully mastered, because the relationship between, it's Harley Quinn Smith, which is Kevin Smith's daughter, and a lot of people want to talk shit about her as an actress, and and they even have a bit in the movie. Oh, he's always shoving his kid into the film, but this is the most beautiful point of it, because it's a love letter for Jason Mewes' character as growing up, his actor Jay's character, Jason Mewes as a person, but also it's an analogy, it's a metaphor for Kevin Smith and his relationship with his daughter and how he's been able to grow and kind of come into his own as a father.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I don't think that moment it's as hard as the climax of Chasing Amy. And then Reboot, just in general, Reboot is really overly nostalgia ridden. It's fine and it's fun for me, but as a film, just what is the best film in the View Askew universe? Reboot does not work. Because
the reason that this question is the best film in the View Askew universe instead of Kevin Smith's filmography is because View Askew universe is a franchise. It's like saying what is the best film within the MCU, but then knocking on one of the films for being heavily MCU specific and instead of being the most superhero film. So that's a bad argument there.
Okay, fair play. Reboot, nostalgia ridden. Excuse me.
I'll let you think a little bit. So I want to knock Chasing Amy a bit. Ironically, that this movie is so heartwarming and all the stuff that you said, but it's very misogynistic, sexist, and gross. Jason Lee's character says a lot of things that does not hold up to this day, and at no point do they really even call him out. A little bit throughout the film they do, but at the end of the day, if you think about it, Holden's character is trying to get with Alyssa, and because at the end of the day, he's just trying to get with her. Yes, granted, he does fall in love, and they fall in love, but at the end of the day, they really only become friends because that's who they are, true to their core. And the relationship there is not as relatable because it's really more of a friendship thing. So it doesn't, you say it expresses the LGBT community, but at the end of the day, you don't, other than that one scene when you have her introduced as a lesbian, and then her one scene when she's hanging out with her friends and they're like, oh, what girl is it? And they're all lesbians, obviously. You don't have any other representations of the community, and it really doesn't showcase the positives of the other side that we, us as hetero white males don't get the opportunity to see. So in this movie, at the end of the day, it's pushing aside the LGBT community storyline and forcing a hetero storyline. And at the end of the day, that is counterproductive.
Kevin Smith has addressed that by putting he says that he put those quotes in the idiot character in Banky, because
and that's what doesn't hold up though from the 90s.
Yeah, but it's just like he's putting those quotes in there to let you know that it's not okay. So that it's like one of those movies where like this guy is the bad guy, and maybe some people don't get that.
But then even by the end, they need to turn it all into this weird sex thing where it's like the only way we can all be together is we all have sex. And it's just weird, and it really doesn't have that icing on the cake like James.
And time. All right, we're going to go to the 1 minute closings. Jake, you are up first, sir. You have 1 minute left. Time starts when you begin speaking.
I will tack on that Dwight Ewell as Hooper X is another great representation of the gay community. While he has some stereotypical moments, he lives outside of the stereotype most of the time. And again, his stereotypical moments are pointed out as stereotypical moments. And why does he have to act that way and stuff as that. Overall, Chasing Amy is the best film in the Viewers universe because it stands alone and how emotional it is on its own. Every other movie depends on humor or nostalgia emotions. It grew from Chasing Amy grew from my least favorite movie when I was a young kid who only liked Jay and Silent Bob, Dick and Fart jokes to my most favorite as I've grown as a person and film fan. Chasing Amy is just a masterpiece. I think it deals well with those issues, and I love the movie.
And time. All right, Henry, final minute.
So it's sweet that you love the movie, but like I said, everything with the Alyssa character and even the Hooper X character is only in like 2 or 3 scenes, so that representation isn't there, and it's more towards the beginning anyways. And then, like I said, everything with the Alyssa scene, all of her, queer community, characteristics, all at the beginning, it's pushed aside for the hetero stuff. So the relationship at the end of the day isn't really as, good because they don't even end. So it's not even on that positive note. And the quote unquote the best scene of the movie is that line, the Chasing Amy line from Silent Bob. And like I said, that's the best part of the movie, but that's that's a Bob scene. That has nothing to even do with Alyssa and Holden. Where in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, you have Jay and Silent Bob the entire time going through from start to finish to get their identities back. But the identities, like you said, does get pushed aside because it's about growing as a father. It's hilarious. It's short. It goes through. It does everything that you want from a View Askew universe movie. You show up to these movies to laugh, have some fun, but the icing on the cake is it has the emotional end. So if you're watching these films, you're going to cry, but you're going to cry laughing and cry of tears because you're going to be so happy.
And time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put you guys back behind the scenes. We'll go ahead and bring in our judges for this one, and I'm going to go ahead and just turn it over immediately. Chris, who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point? As concise as you can put it for me.
That's a very good argument. If we're back and forth for me, Jake had me for a little bit in the beginning, but Henry and Tato for a minute really turned around to hitting on everything but Chasing Amy, the stereotype, everything. And that's pretty bad example. It was a good match, but Henry won this for the end. To defend Jay and Bob reboot and then him taking out Chasing Amy with the stereotype. But, the overall theme doesn't have one movie better than as a viewer still favorite.
All right, Alec, over to you, sir. Same question.
Yeah, I said Henry. What got me was when Henry was basically using Tato's argument as like a strength on his, stating that his favorite scene from Reboot is a Chasing Amy scene type of thing. So,
okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys in the back. We'll speak to you guys next round as I bring back the competitors, and we're gonna go ahead and move into question number 2. All right. Question number 2 is also something that'll be relevant very shortly from now. And it's something that Henry really enjoys. So I purposely wrote a question shitting on it. The question is, What is the worst performance by a lead or major supporting character in a Rocky film? And for what it's worth, this is the Rocky franchise, so Creed 1, Creed 2 is also on the table. With that said, though, Jake, I'm going to turn it back over to you once again, sir. I'll give you the timer, and it will start when you begin speaking.
So, at some point, Sylvester Stallone got this terrible, horrible, no good, very, very bad idea that he wanted to work with boxers who can act rather than actors who can box. I don't know if he knows this or not, but people don't need to actually do things in real life to do them in movies. Anyway, I digress. Antonio Tarver handled the aforementioned task fairly well, playing Mason the Lion Dixon and Rocky Balboa. However, Tommy Morrison as Tommy Gunn in Rocky V did not. The performance, if you can call it that, is absolute dog water, I believe, to borrow my esteemed opponent's phrase. There are no redeeming qualities to this performance that I can think of, and I just double-checked to be sure half hour before the match started. I actually, his Oklahoma accent is okay, but so is my Tato accent. I can put that in a movie too if anyone wants. There's nothing good here. I hate his face. By the way, rest in peace, Tommy Morrison.
And time. Well, at least you were slightly kind at the end there. All right, Henry, we will go over to you, sir. The timer starts when you begin speaking.
All right. So what we are going to do is we are going to I had to remember his name real quick. So when you think of this franchise, you got to think of what really brings the Rocky franchise to its heights. It's the relationship between Rocky and Adrian, obviously, and it's the dynamic between Rocky and his opponents. And the reason that Rocky and Apollo Creed have such a dynamic battle is because there's two movies, but also Carl Weathers' performance. The reason that Mr. T does Clubber Lang does a fantastic job of being a great foe is because of Mr. T's energetic performance and what he brings to the table. Ironically, one of his most popular foes is honestly one of his worst performances. Ivan Drago, Dolph Lundgren's performance in Rocky IV is just there's nothing to it. You can literally take him out and put any other big, buff, steroided out actor who can pretend to have a Russian accent for a couple lines, and you have the exact same thing. So at the end of the day, Dolph Lundgren's performance brings nothing to the table, and it's terrible.
And time. All right, so we have Tommy Gunn versus Dolph Lundgren.
In 4 to be specific, because he comes back for Creed 2, so I just want that to be clear, just talking about 4.
Yeah, this is Rocky 4 versus Rocky 5. Jake, we're going to turn it back over to you, sir. Rocky 5. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Tommy Gunn has zero intimidation, even to a brain-damaged geriatric Rocky. Apollo Creed is intimidating because he's the legitimate champion of the world, like legitimate champion, unlike fucking the paper championship Tommy gets later. He's intimidating in the second movie because he kicked the shit out of Rocky the first time and won. Clubber is intimidating because he's flat out Mr. Steal Your Grill. Like, you know it's true. That look Adrian gave, Adrian was totally about to go for it. Anyway, Ivan Drago killed Apollo Creed. And all of this is believable because it is backed by at least fair to great acting. I would put, he doesn't say a ton of lines, Drago, so you don't get that much. But I still think the acting is good there. I think Hulk Hogan is a better actor and a better performance than Tommy Gunn here. Tommy Gunn is just like a little whiny bitch. She's annoying. And it's because he shouldn't be that way because Tommy Morrison was on his way to on his way to a world boxing title at the time. So he shouldn't come off that way. Tommy Gunn is literally just annoying from the get-go. The second you first see him on screen, he looks like he's just sitting there like, hey, do I come in now, Sly? His acting is literally worse than Jason Mewes' in Clerks or than Jay Burns acting like he doesn't have the answer to a 5-pointer. It's like, I ain't nobody's puppet, nobody's boy. It's just so bad. It's not even satisfying to see him get his ass kicked at the end because he sells it so poorly. Like, we don't get the triumphant feeling that we get in every other movie because of just how bad this performance is. Drago's performance is really, really good. You don't need to say a lot of words to be intimidating and have a badass performance.
And time. All right, Henry, back over to
I'm
you.
actually glad you picked Tommy Morrison, Tommy Gunn from Rocky V, because before I took a break on YouTube, I had a video called Rocky V is a masterpiece. And the reason that this is the case is because the dynamic between Rocky and Tommy it's a mirror of what Rocky was growing up in his career before he got Mickey in his corner. It's one of those things where Rocky now is the new Mickey and Tommy is the new Rocky. And the whole reason that the dynamic is so impressive and why the script is actually beautiful, and Stallone himself got bullied into saying this movie's bad because it's amazing. But with that said, is Rocky's relationship with Tommy mirrors what his life was growing up, and that's why he pushes aside his real son because of his relationship with Tommy. Tommy does a great job of having it, just not having the training, and also not having the level head. Think of what Rocky would have been if him being a leg breaker, if he was that, but he didn't have anyone in his corner. If Rocky didn't have Adrian in his corner, and if Rocky didn't have Mickey in his corner, that's what he would have become. What Tommy would have been. And that's what Rocky was able to bring to the table before you had the Duke. Is it Duke? I always forget his name, but George Washington Duke. Yeah, when you have him in his ear of all the bullshit and all the gimmicks and all the stuff. Without his character, the relationship between Rocky and Tommy is fantastic, and both character wise and acting wise, he's bringing everything that you need to have. And I'm actually glad that you brought up Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan is a very terrible actor. He's proven that in many movies, but the fact that he has so much charisma because he's using his abilities as a wrestler to showcase that, he's actually able to do a good job, which is what Dolph Lundgren does not bring to the table as Ivan Drago, because he doesn't have the words. Like I said, you can literally put a blonde wig on and a huge spray tan on Sylvester Stallone, and he could have played a dual role, and he could have been Ivan Drago, because you wouldn't be able to tell the difference based on the performance, because he doesn't say anything. He doesn't have that. His wife says more lines, and she's more great, and that's the reason that's more memorable for that. And obviously the death of Apollo.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the open discussion round. The timer starts when the first competitor speaks.
I feel like all of the good stuff you said about Tommy Gunn, it's this story, it's this character, I feel like that's all from the writing. You did throw in right at the end there how his acting was fine, but I disagree. He has less charisma than Drago. He is less, he is less intimidating. He is less threatening, and it's because of his acting performance. Whereas Dolph Lundgren is acting his ass off for only getting to say 4 words. He sits there and he's believably intimidating. You will lose is way more badass than anything.
That's actually interesting you say that. So I want you to use your imagination. Imagine if Tommy Morrison didn't say a single word in Rocky V. Based on your logic, he would be intimidating. He would do a good job if he was in the same role.
No, because he just standing there looking stupid. Whereas Dolph Lundgren
the entire time. If you go through all the montages in Rocky V, Tommy Gunn is beating the shit out of people, and he's a badass. It's the parts when he's actually having his insecurities and he's having his points in life where he doesn't get the opportunity to showcase his ability. And the reason that he's a quote unquote a paper champ is because he had all the bullshit, and that's what George Washington Duke brought to the table of the gimmicks and stuff, because it was all a scheme to get the real champ Rocky out of retirement. So at the end of the day, like you said, yes, it's in the writing, but Tommy Morrison does a fantastic job of bringing to the table the character that you want. Think of the original Star Wars with Mark Hamill and Luke Skywalker. He's whiny, he's annoying, he's complaining, but that's what that arc of that character is, and that's what it's looking for. And that's exactly what you need in Tommy Morrison as character. You need him to grow, because when you need him to be a badass, when you need him to have those moments of grit and all that stuff, he has that. The scene when he's got his girl, the scene that he goes with George Washington Duke on Christmas, I don't remember the exact time because I didn't prep, but I'm pretty sure it's on a holiday, and he goes to Rocky's house and he has that. He's like, yo, this is what I'm doing, jump in the car, and he's got that stone face. He brings to the table the grit and the chops that you need for that. And all the whiny scenes, it was intentional, because he is an insecure person at his core.
I guess I didn't feel that, and I like I said, yeah, sure, I agree with you there, but I don't buy it because it's coming from Tommy Morrison, who was a fantastically ranked boxer at the time. So it's he can't win. I don't buy him as whiny, and I don't buy him as intimidating. because I don't buy him as intimidating because he's not a good actor. I don't buy him as whiny because he is an intimidating
Honestly,
man.
and just another thing. Honestly, you didn't even pick the worst performance in your film. If you would have picked Sage Stallone as the son, he is more whiny because he's annoying and he's not even a likable character. There's moments. The reason that you're so angry with Tommy Morrison, Tommy Gunn's character, is because you kind of grew that relationship and you built it up. Everything with Ivan Drago, he doesn't say anything, and like I said, you can literally just cut out any other big buff bodybuilder or huge actor. It could have been Jean-Claude Van Damme. He doesn't need to be huge. He could just be could have punched him or kicked him in the head and did some dirty stuff to kill Apollo Creed. Killing Apollo Creed is the only thing that really makes Ivan Drago scary, because he actually showed that he can kill someone. But that could have literally been anybody, because he doesn't really bring anything to the table. He doesn't stand out as a character, whereas in everything with his wife, she does all the talking, she does the promoting, and she steps that up. And his other promoter, he 2,000, 2,200 pounds or whatever he punches. And it's one of those things. Ivan Drago literally could be replaced. Even if you don't love Tommy Morrison's performance in Rocky V, you can't imagine anyone else in that character because of how it was written. It fit perfectly like a glove, similar to, like you said earlier, with Hulk Hogan's Thunder Lips in Rocky III. It might not be the best acting, but it's exactly what I was looking for as that character, and it stands out and it's memorable. Tommy Morrison's memorable. Drago's only memorable for the legacy, not because of his performance.
I think it is due to Dolph Lundgren's performance. I don't think anyone else could be quite that intimidating. And I think, like I said, Antonio Tarver did way better as a boxer actor.
And time. All right, so we're going to go into the closings. Jake, you will be up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Yeah, like I said, the reason that Tommy Morrison gives the worst acting performance is because he's not even an actor. He's not even like one of those hybrid people where it's like, where The Rock is a wrestler and slash actor, now more an actor. Hulk Hogan is even considerably a better actor. Like I said, Antonio Tarver did better at acting while being an athlete, and I believe that was the only movie Antonio Tarver was in, was Rocky Balboa. Like Drago is better because it's still an acting performance coming from an actor, whereas I just don't believe anything. You say anyone could have been Drago, anyone was Tommy Gunn by way of Antonio Tarver later. Overall, you don't go to a plumber to paint your house. You do not go to Burger King to get a steak dinner, and I don't think you should hire an actor or hire a boxer, to act in your film either.
And time. All right, Henry, back over to you. Final minute.
So clearly you have a personal vendetta against Tommy Morrison. That's fine. That has really nothing to do with what we saw on screen. I'm going to give you a comparison of why Ivan Drago doesn't work as a performance. Of if you look at Tom Hardy's character in Warrior, he has that same brute factor of literally just punching people and pretty much killing them with a couple punches, but he has scenes where he's able to act and showcase his acting chops. That is what Drago is missing. Dolph Lundgren has no opportunities to do that. Every time that there's really a talking scene, he mumbles his way through it. If he dies, he dies. Really, that could have been anybody. And all the performances that you actually get from that side is from Bridget Nielsen and his other promoter. That those are of quality and those are of merit in terms of acting. Tommy Morrison's character does a fantastic job of bringing the emotional side to it. He has that grit, he has that hunger, he has that drive. He literally is able to mirror everything that Stallone has, both with what we saw within the Rocky franchise and also everything that we've talked about leading up to it. Tommy Morrison does a fantastic job of having those moments to give Rocky a reason to push his kid to the side because he's the new son. He does a fantastic job filling those shoes.
And time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in the back. We'll bring the judges on for the deliberations, and I'm going to go ahead and bring... Oh, I didn't actually hit your click thing. My bad. I'll go ahead and bring them in. With that said, Alec, we'll go up to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
I picked Henry. I think Henry explain better how the nuances of the character of Tommy Gunn's actually helped elevate the performance. So I'm with Henry.
All right, and then Abel, down to you.
I didn't think Henry brought anything to the table as to why his argument would be the best argument. So no, Tato all the way. Also, I'm glad these guys dressed up for this.
That is true. All right, Chris, over to you then. Who gets the vote?
Yeah, just for back and forth. I went slightly for Henry at the end because I feel like by Tato brought up good argument. I think Henry just hit on why Tommy Gunn had moments he was good, and why Drago that was story that his fight was doing more of the thing. It's just like I think Tato was just focusing more. You don't need actual bosses in the movie than talking about the actual reason why it's in the way.
All right, we're going to go ahead and put you guys in the back. And technically, Henry has one, but we're going to go ahead and play the third question anyways, because it is an exhibition. Why not? We'll have some fun. Let's get into it. Question number 3 is, what is the best video game film released in the 2010s? Arguably, the only good decade marginally for video game films. Because comparatively, what else is there? With that said, Jake, you do have an answer prep, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you. Chris, I cannot read what you write on your whiteboard. Stop turning it around. It's so small. With that said, I'm going to go ahead. You can't play from the back, man. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jake. Time starts when you begin speaking, sir.
Alrighty. On this one, I chose not only the correct answer to the question, but the only good movie eligible. Let's see. We get, in this crazy mystery movie of mine, we get a great performance from Justice Smith and Catherine Newton and Ken Watanabe for the brief amount of time he is in with his adorable snubble as well. And then we have a fantastic, amazing performance by Ryan Reynolds, of course. I don't know if you guys have figured this out yet, but the Pokemon in this movie look fantastic. Exactly what I dreamed like they would look like in a live-action movie when I was a kid. Detective Pikachu, I choose you, and I will yield my time since we're in funsies mode anyway.
All right, which means, Henry, you get an extra 15 seconds to think. Time starts when it turns over to 0 for you.
All right, so the best video game movie of the 2010s is the remake of Tomb Raider. Alicia Vikander does a fantastic job of stepping in the nostalgic shoes that Angelina Jolie originally set as Lara Croft. And the reason that this movie is not only better than the original 2, but it's also the best one of the 2010s for all video games is because not only does it handle the storyline of the action adventure, but also gives the character of Lara Croft some weight and some levity to it of dealing with the relationship with her father and all that stuff. The effects look good. You actually feel like they're in danger the entire time. Like I said, Alicia Vikander at that point is a well-established Oscar nominated actress. So she does, everything that you want from a performance. She really embodies that character. And honestly, if we're talking about Detective Pikachu, this movie is more of an IP and more of a cash grab in terms of like character stuff than actually a film, because all the theatrical stuff within the film really don't come together until like a weird third act twist that honestly does not make sense. So Tomb Raider is better.
All right, back over to you, Jake, when ready.
So starting off with the with Detective Pikachu, it's fantastic because it works for all audiences. We start off with Justice Smith, who kind of represents people who grew up with Pokemon and then got out of it and then maybe got back in, like either with a nostalgia wave or just because they chose to, maybe with Pokemon Go, something like that. But yeah, this kid's like, fuck Pokemon, I'm going to sell insurance. He's a wonderfully jaded character. Then we get like the minor Flintstones gags, like the guy cooking in the walk with the Charmander tail. We get to see like the Squirtle Squad firefighters. That's awesome. It nails nods to the game, like to the video games, to the anime, to everything. The Mr. Mime scene is hilarious. All the Looney Tunes level humor where it gets like really dark, that they're like pouring gas on this Pokemon, which is hilarious to adults, but also plays on a Looney Tunes level to kids where it's not like scarring or questioning to them. Like it's hilarious when Ryan Reynolds is singing the theme song. I personally was hoping we would already have a sequel to this one because I love this universe and I cannot wait to live more in it. It was financially successful, critically successful. I'm pretty sure Tomb Raider is below 50% or rotten, as it were, on the most platforms. Detective Pikachu is definitely the most critically successful film of the 2010s, or the most video game film of the 2010s, most critically successful by measures such as Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb scores such as that. And also, I believe it is the most financially successful IP or no. I could be wrong on that one, though.
And time. All right, Henry, back over to you.
All right, so everything with Detective Pokemon Pikachu, it's one of those movies where it doesn't even feel like a film, because the whole gimmick of Pikachu losing the memory and them working together and coming together and figuring out their relationship and how they're going to, I need a Pokemon because I need a friend, and it doesn't really handle that well until that third act of all the emotional stuff of the growing and all that stuff. But like I said, at that point it just turns into a gimmick because it doesn't feel earned, because everything at the beginning, like you said, it's a there's a Pokemon, there's a Pokemon, there's a Pokemon. The criticism that everyone gives Ready Player One and the most recent Space Jam movie is the fact that, look, it's just a bunch of random stuff that they're using for IP, but that doesn't have any substance to it. That's what Pikachu Detective, whatever that movie's called, that's the reason that doesn't really have anything for the first 2/3, and then the third act is literally just a slog of just, I'm trying to take over the world using the Mewtwo and all that stuff. And then you have the reveal of Ryan Reynolds, who his father died and reincarnated as Pikachu, having the same voice, which it's cute, Ryan Reynolds got the actor, but at least at some point in the film, if they would have had a scene where, once the reveal happened, where Pikachu's talking and Justice Smith's character is hearing a different voice, at least it would make sense, but you never have that. So that's totally stupid, and it's just for the audience, and it doesn't make any sense. Whereas in Tomb Raider, everything that you got from this movie, it's one of those things that it was during the time in 2018 where everyone was just hard critical of the concept of video game movies, as well as just remakes at the time. People just automatically knocked everything just because it was a remake. It recently, within the last 2-3 years, people are starting to become more, welcoming to remakes. That's the reason that people knocked Tomb Raider. If you actually look at since you brought up Rotten Tomatoes, I wouldn't do this usually, but since you brought up, literally on the critical response, it says Tomb Raider reboots the franchise with a more grounded approach and a star who's clearly more up to the task. Yes, and the second thing, it says neither of which have an uninspired origin story, but at that point, that's because they're not really accepting of the concept of the reboot.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and go into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer starts when the first competitor speaks.
Yeah. I was referring to more of the critic and audience scores than any singular review on that one. And then as far as
that was everyone, that's the overall thoughts that they brought together. But go ahead.
Okay, gotcha. As for the voice thing, Tim hasn't heard his dad's voice in a long time, so that totally works fine. Like, as for why Tim doesn't know the Pikachu's voice is his dad's voice.
If he doesn't even remember his dad's voice, then why is he so distraught when the fact that his dad is gone and missed? And that's the whole reason he's a recluse, because he's mad at his dad for dying. So he loved him so much, but he doesn't remember his voice. How does that add up?
His dad, he wasn't distraught when his dad first died. He went over there. He said, "I'm just here to fucking." But
he's hateful.
Say peace out and get my shit.
He's literally just he's doing.
He's upset that his dad left his mom, left to go work with Pokemon. He's not upset about his dad dying. He's upset that he's upset previously. So when his dad dies, he's like, "Good, fuck him." Basically.
That's what I'm saying. So he doesn't have that relationship with his father. So at the end, when we're supposed to believe that all of a sudden, now that's his dad, and we have this new foreign love. It just doesn't add up, because there's nothing that you have for the relationship.
I think the relationship was built through him with Pikachu, and through the adventures they went through, and through death-defying adventures together. That will bond you, and then you realize why Ryan Reynolds kind of did the things he did. Even if some of them were sketchy and whatnot.
Yeah, but everything that you have in Tomb Raider, it actually has a similar. It's actually ironic that they have similar plots of the Death Fathers and all that stuff. Whereas everything that you're learning from Tomb Raider and Lara Croft's, she didn't really want to do this either. She kind of just stumbled into it because it's hey, I'm kind of getting the clues and all that stuff, and she kind of stumbles. It's not like Uncharted where it's like, oh, this is my plan. So when she grows into it and you realize that she's just a badass, it actually gives a good female lead, which is I don't remember the girl's name in Detective Pikachu, but her character is just, it's really annoying and not really likable. And Justice Smith's acting is terrible, by the way. You said it was great. That was weird. But anyway, Alicia Vikander showcases that this Lara Croft is empowering and a badass, but also you have a foe in Walton Goggins. And at the time, if you look at, once again, the responses of why they're knocking is just because Walton Goggins was the villain, that it's like, oh, that's what we saw a mile away. But in terms of the actual writing, it actually made a lot of sense of how you built up to that turn. And you have the Dominic West character of the father just does a fantastic job in flashbacks, all that stuff of just realizing like that relationship that they could have had. And you have that emotional impact and the driving force in Lara Croft's character that you really don't have in the Detective Pikachu movie, because it's literally just him following and annoyed by Pikachu and all that stuff. And yes, it does technically grow, but like I said, by the third act, it's more of a audience, manipulation for the emotions instead of just a true well-earned stuff, because they're not even getting along for really the first 2/3.
Yeah. Alicia Vikander is fine, but she's not as good as Angelina Jolie was in the role. What's up?
That's nostalgia talking. Keep going.
No, that's facts. I actually I think Justice Smith is like a really good actor, because we believe that he's like, to act non-fantastical in a Pokemon world is
so to act wooden is fantastic because he's just a not caring character. Is that what you're trying to say? So he was perfectly wooden. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, he's purposely turned off to the world.
Yeah, but I'm talking about his actual performance was wooden and stiff and just not really engaging.
No, I disagree. I think his performance illustrated the character well.
The character of a bad character who doesn't have anything that we latch onto until that manipulation and the third act. Okay.
And time. All right, we're going to go on to the 1 minute closing. Time starts when you begin speaking, Jake.
Overall, I believe Detective Pikachu to be the better film, in my opinion, from what I've seen, and critically, financially successful again. I think Tim's performance, I think Justice Smith's performance as Tim sells a person who is jaded by the world of Pokemon. I think all of the details in the film are fantastic. I just like every little eye-catching thing, and like you watch that movie a billion times and not catch every awesome detail. As a Pokemon fan through and through, the movie was satisfying to me. I liked the direction in general. I think Bill Nighy's villain was much better than Walton Goggins' villain. I think just in general, the much superior film and the best film of the best video game film of the 2010s is Detective Pikachu.
And time. All right, Henry, back over to you for the final minute.
All right, so I love that the knock on Tomb Raider is just because it's critical stuff and all the audience and the critics hated it. But if you look at the gross, it grossed almost $300 million because people went to go see this movie, and not because of the nostalgia of Lara Croft, because it's one of those things where it's a video game movie, no one cares. So people actually went to go see this movie, and on the opening weekend, it did better than just the opening weekend because of the fact that people actually enjoyed this movie. And when people start talking about it, it's probably one of those things. One person's like, "Oh, it was okay," blah blah blah, and it's one of those weird word of mouth things of 2018. But if you actually look at the film narratively, it has a strong script of what you're building of. It has a driving force of Lara Croft finding the clues that connect her and her father, the relationship. It starts off from the beginning all the way up to the end. Whereas Detective Pikachu, the first 2/3 of that movie is just a commercial. You literally just have a commercial of like, oh look a Pokemon, oh look a Pokemon, oh look a Pokemon. Third act, oh look, that was my dad, and I have a relationship that you really didn't build up until this point, and now we're manipulated into really caring about it. And you have to swell the music and all that jazz, and then you actually have to literally Ryan Reynolds into it to kind of prove that point.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and put you guys in the back, and we will bring the judges in for the deliberation. I did some actual fact checking on this one because we got a lot more into the minutia of the films than we did in the previous ones. A lot more things that are checkable came up. So for starters, however this affects the judges based on what was said. And again, do keep in mind one of the competitors is going off the cuff here. The actual way the beginning of the Pokemon film plays out in terms of the origin of the character of Tim Goodman, who is played by Justice Smith, because a lot of that was said and there was some stuff that was correct and some that wasn't. Tim Goodman in the movie is a 21-year-old whose mother died 10 years prior to the start of the film. Though it's never said how she died, it is very heavily implied that a Pokemon was involved in her death, which is part of the reason why he has a disdain for the Pokemon. His father wants to take him in and raise him, but he is a detective who works with a Pokemon in the big city of the film, and thus that is why Tim has stayed away and has a strained relationship with him. Upon his father's apparent death, he does not immediately begin investigating why. He only begins investigating once he goes to his father's apartment to collect his belongings, meets Pikachu, who is at his father's apartment, and of course is played by Ryan Reynolds, and then finds a mysterious vial for which he is attacked by other Pokemon so that they can take it. And it is that instigates the actual investigation. It is not necessarily an investigation of why his father died. It's just that it may be connected to it. In terms of the success that both these films had, though it's not overwhelming success, you could argue that in the video game genre, it's some of the best. In terms of critical, Pokemon Detective Pikachu is a 68% critic approval rating with an average score of 6 out of 10. It had a 79% audience approval rating. Just Tomb Raider had a 53% approval rating from critics with a 5.5 average out of 10, so they're not that far apart. A 55% audience approval rating. I'm not going to read both consensuses to save time, but for what it's worth, both critical consensuses based on the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes log the same concept about the films. They are strong enough films for what they are, but they could have been much better in certain areas. In terms of financial success, Pokemon Detective Pikachu is, I just lost it there for a second. Pokemon Detective Pikachu, in terms of actual gross, is the second most successful video game film of all time. It grossed $433 million at the box office. It is only outgrossed by Warcraft, which grossed $439 million at the box office, so it is just barely above it. Where is it? Tomb Raider came... Tomb Raider sits just outside the top 10 at 11th. It grossed $274.6 million at the worldwide box office. And the reason I say that is because Lara Croft Tomb Raider actually grossed just barely more than it, coming in at 274.7. So it did technically gross more than the reboot, but just barely. They basically made about the same all those years apart. With that said, though, Abel, I'm going to go up to you. Who gets your vote for this?
Tato, you were robbed of a win, buddy, because you were a lot better in the last round, and you were a lot better this round as well. You sold me on why you liked the movie. I wrote your name really big again.
All right. Chris, I'm going to go down to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
Yeah, surprisingly, I went with Tato Vela. I thought he brought up a lot of point in the movie. I thought Henry was telling him about, the manipulation. So I thought Tato brought up example of the movie, brought up the acting. He defended Justin May. I just heard Henry just say, "Oh, Lucifer can't have watched God." Did you hear a specific example in the movie why he made it good? And that what one at the end. They just told me more of why his movie is better than Tomb Raider.
All right. Well, judges, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in the back, and I'm not going to bother editing this. Your winner tonight is Henry Confidential Sanchez, although the people's champion is, of course, Mr. Jake Tato. Let's get into this. Henry, your ego didn't need another boost, but it got it. How do you feel tonight?
Yeah, it's one of those things where Tato actually did a great job. Like literally the whole reason that I pitched this was to get him better at debating, because not only was he able to take it seriously because he was facing me, but he's also able to bounce off of me, learn things in the moment. You can tell if you watch this back, you can actually see his brain like clicking of how he's able to adjust things based on what I'm saying, as well as learning things of what I'm saying. So that's literally was my goal, and it worked. Obviously that third question was a one-sided thing. There's one answer. It is what it is. Not a big deal. The fact that I even potentially made it close was good. I haven't seen Tomb Raider since 2018 when it came out, so I didn't fucking remember jack shit about that movie. And I do agree that Detective Pikachu is overrated, but it is still the correct answer. So good job, Tato, on winning the one that you should have won. But yeah, the other ones were fun. You actually had me sweating on the Chase and Amy one because, maybe.
I was so taken. Oh, sorry.
No, Jake, down to you, man. Again, great job tonight. Welcome back as a competitor, sir. Obviously, Henry, we all know, has one more match before the year's over. We can't possibly build that one up enough, but you do have one more match. You're going to be going up against Richie Goodacre before the year is all said and done. So after tonight's performance, which I will give you the credit, it was much improved over previous performances. How do you feel going into that match, trying to end the year on your first win?
Feeling good. Obviously, when you play against a buzzsaw like Henry Confidential, you can only get better.
Stop saying things like that. Don't make him think he's better. Just beat him down like he did you in the debates, okay? Just really hammer him home.
Whoops.
Or just take low blows. Make fun of his where you throw the bags. I don't know what it's called. I'm sorry, bro. I didn't want to shoot you that bad.
I'm retired. It's all good, but cornhole.
Oh man, let's go back to the station house and cornhole us the drone. Anyway, I was really rather taken aback by you picking Reboot. I had actually prepped a little bit for Clerks, and then I was totally on the back foot for Reboot. So you did next level me. Good job. I had wondered about it, but I couldn't prep for everything. So I prepped for Clerks and a little bit for Mallrats. Did not prep for Reboot. I can back that up for him. He was messaging me in the prep for this, like, again, just speaking out loud to somebody who wasn't going to be involved in the judging potentially, and he was talking about like what should he prep for that you could possibly go for. What was the other one you brought up? Because I think technically it wasn't on that list for some reason. I think it's because it's like technically based on a game, but like I think Angry Birds 2 is technically the highest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes for a video game.
Don't act like I didn't think about Angry Birds just because I was gonna bullshit that it's just like the game. I haven't seen it, but I was gonna bullshit that it's the perfect adaptation. For what it's worth,
Angry Birds 2 is far better than Angry Birds 1. But I saw both in theaters. But yeah, Jake, congratulations. I mean, also you didn't win, but congratulations still. This match was a great performance from yourself. As you said, especially those last 2 rounds, I think you did a really, really great job. As somebody who's not seen any of those fucking Rocky sequels, you had me sold enough. Listen, man, everybody has a different opinion about what's good and what's bad. I don't want to waste my time. Creed is excellent.
All good. Perfect franchise. Rocky and Saw are the 2 best franchises of all time.
Now you get the fuck out of here. For that, you're going to get booted to the back. But guys, that is the end of this match. Be sure to tune in because the season is coming to a wrap. But these guys are both going to appear one more time each. And we got a lot of great matches coming up, including the conclusion of our 2022 tournament as we wrap up the year. With that said, on behalf of everyone here at the Movie Battleground, thank you to my judges, Chris, Alec, and Abel for being here. My name is Aaron Knoll, and we will see you next time. Take care.